When I was in middle school, my mom had the bright idea that she, my sister, and I would learn how to scuba dive. And so we did. Did you know that fish love Cheez Whiz? Yep, that is one of the things I learned and remembered from that class. And it's true, it really is. While underwater, one little squirt from the can of cheese-like substance, and the fish come flying, swimming from everywhere and just like completely surround you. It's really kind of cool. Well, anyway, after we became certified scuba divers, we would only go diving every once in a while. We never became fanatics out in the water every chance we got. We were casual divers at best. So then fast forward to many, many years later when I was back in Florida after graduate school. And a friend of mine from graduate school came down to visit me and to go on a diving trip. So we went out to Jupiter, Florida for a day dive. The day was beautiful. But as we were getting out to the dive site, the waters started to become a little choppy. But then, as we prepared our tanks and got them on, as we were ready to disembark the boat, the waves turned from a little choppy to huge swells. And I mean huge. The waves were so big that you couldn't see the horizon anymore. The ocean had become claustrophobic with these walls of waves surrounding us. And this threw me off a little bit. Now, when one disembarks a boat into the water, you are supposed to put your hand on your regulator and your fingertips on your mask. And that regulator is what gives you the oxygen to breathe from. And this is done, in theory, to keep your mask on and to keep that regulator in. Well, when it came time for me to disembark, I had my hand ready and prepared. But as I was flipping off the boat, a huge swell came and hit. My mask flooded, my regulator didn't stay sealed, and I inhaled some water and started to cough so much. This, plus the big waves, plus the water crushing down, plus being unable to clear things, plus, and I was in the middle of my very first full-blown panic attack. I had no idea what was going on. I was metaphorically and physically drowning in the middle of huge swells in the Atlantic Ocean. At first, my dive buddy, my friend, told me the things that I knew to do, including let's start descending below the rough waters. And I tried, I really tried, but I kept panicking. I kept shaking. He told me to do all the things I knew to do again. And I tried, but I just couldn't. I couldn't. I could see that he was getting frustrated, but I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't just make this stop. This was beyond my control. This was beyond my ability. And then he reached out his hand and touched my arm. And instantaneously, I was fine. From that one small touch, I was brought out of my panic attack. I remembered all of my training. I was able to do what I needed to do, and we descended, and it was amazing. We went along this plateau until we got to a coral reef canyon, and we dove down into it. And it was so quiet and peaceful. We definitely did not need Cheese Whiz to get the fish to come to us because we were already surrounded by them. And they were all over the place just hanging out. The quiet peacefulness of that dive is something that I will have with me for the rest of my life. It was in this peace and quiet that I felt God's presence, being surrounded by God's beautiful creation, being an observer, leaving nothing but taking these memories with me. And what is also really cool is that because the rest of our party were able to descend right away and get to the canyon right away, they missed the beautiful, majestic sea turtles that swam with us along the plateau before we got to the canyon. When we finally emerged from the dive, the waters were back to being just choppy, but that was fine. And that sense of peace and tranquility was deeply rooted in me. It had taken hold of me. It is no wonder when preparing for this Sunday that this memory popped back into my mind. Everything from seeing and feeling God in the quiet a la 1 Kings, to the reaching out and the calming of the storm within me a la the gospel, to even telling this story right now, telling this memory, and through it sharing God with others a la Romans. But one thing really hit me this time as I was reflecting on this memory and on this gospel reading. And that is the waves, the chaos of that day, both in Florida and also the day on the Sea of Galilee. I am not one who believes that God will give you what you can handle or that God will test you. That's kind of like saying that God's love is determined or conditional on what we can survive or if we can pass a test. I don't like that. I don't believe that. And so when I look at these waters, I see not God creating chaos, but instead the world around us causing chaos. It could be the changing weather patterns and warming of waters due to climate change, or it could be a cyclical weather pattern that could bring about the quick change in the atmosphere, which would cause the storms or swells. But one thing that I truly believe is that God didn't cause them. That God didn't cause the storm on the Sea of Galilee or in Florida to make a point, but instead, God works through them. So let's take a quick look at the gospel. Jesus, seeing that the others have gone on ahead of him, walks across the wild sea to get to his friends, to his disciples. And they are both terrified and in awe. Peter tests Jesus. If it is really you, command me to come to you. And Jesus does. And when Peter is unable to do it on his own, to walk on the water on his own, to conquer the chaos on his own, Jesus touches him. And in that touch, he is restored. That touch calms what is going on inside of him to allow him to walk on water, to rise above the chaotic waves. God didn't cause the storm, but Jesus is above the storm. Jesus has faith in us to be above the storm too, and encourages us to rise above the storm. And when our humanness comes out, when we doubt, when we are afraid, when we can't do the things that we were trained to do, that we were made to do, when we panic, when we just feel the swells and claustrophobia of the waves, when we sink, when we can't breathe, then a hand touches us and we are restored. Internal calm takes hold, a clear head pushes out the doubt and the fear, and we can do what we are meant to do, what we are created to do. And we will have peace. We will know that we are in the presence of God. I know that many of us aren't daily on the water, and so we don't experience the suddenness of a storm coming on or a sudden wall of waves surrounding us. But we are still out there experiencing and living into different forms of chaos that the world has created. We live in the chaos of commerce. We live in the chaos of policies. We live in the chaos of rules and regulations and loopholes. We live in the chaos of some interpersonal relationships. We live in the chaos of politics. We live in the chaos of expectations, of responsibility, of society. And Jesus calls us to him, to walk above the chaos and to meet him here in this community. And if we falter, when we falter, Jesus is ready to reach out to you, offering his body and blood given for you. A touch on your lips to restore you, to realign you, to help you remember who you are, whose you are, and who you are called to be, to what your training is. And what is it that we are trained to do, that we know we should do? Well, we are blessed and grounded by the food at this table to be a blessing for others. We listen to other stories. We hear about their own chaos, and we offer them a touch on the arm to provide stability, to provide grounding, to provide a caring heart. And we accompany them as they come out of the chaos that envelops them. We are also called to proclaim to others where we have seen and experienced God in the midst of the chaos or in the quiet, so that others that feel lost at sea know that God, that we are waiting there with our hands outstretched. You know, God sent Elijah to go find others so that he wasn't alone anymore. We aren't meant to be alone. So we are called, trained to be that voice to one who feels lost at sea, to tell them, to show them with actions that they are not alone, that they are loved, that they are cared for, that they are known. The reality of our world is that we will never want for or escape chaos. It will always happen. But know that we have a God who is above the chaos, who beckons us to be above the chaos too, and who will reach out and touch us, help us, give us a hand when we can't do it on our own. So, may you feel the chaos below your feet and not as walls of water surrounding you. May you trust that God is calling you and have faith to leave the stability of the boat to try. May you accept the outstretched hand reaching out to you when the swells overtake you. May your restoration energize you to go out there and be the helping hand for others. And may God bless you now and keep you always. Amen.